What's going on? Today we are talking about OP15 Brook, Green Black Brook. He is a very fun leader. He gets a lot of changes with OP17, some changes that you might not expect. And I'm very excited to talk about him. I'm very passionate about playing this leader. He's just so fun. And I think that he gets a lot of upgrades that make him way more consistent. So to start off, I'm kind of going to explain how the leader works and why he's so different than other leaders. As you can see, the first thing that is under Brook's type is under the rules of this game, when your deck is reduced to 0, you will lose the game at the end of that turn. So the normal rules of the game is the moment that your deck hits 0, the second your deck hits 0, you lose the game. So with Brook, you actually have until the end of your turn to win the game, basically. Otherwise, you do lose the game. It's not a lot of leeway, but it is exactly what we need. And what I mean by that is his activate main is once per turn, you trash 4 cards from the top of your deck. Your goal is to get through all of your deck, put it all to your trash, because once your deck is reduced to 0, then you may restand one of your characters. Now, I want to be very clear. When your deck hits 0, you can only restand one of your characters when you use your leader effect. If you use characters like Sanji or Chopper or this 0 cost event to mill to 0, that will not automatically restand a character. You have to use this activate main. However, you can use these to get to 0, and then during that turn afterwards use your effect. Even if you mill no cards, the effect will cause you to restand. So it's very order specific. If you have, let's just say, 8 cards left in your deck, and you use your leader effect first, and then mill 5 cards with Sanji, you will actually not restand any characters, even though you are at 0. So keep that in mind as you're playtesting him. For the newer players out there. So to start with the deck, we have 2 searchers, a Nami searcher and a Perona searcher. Unfortunately, both of these searchers look like they're going up in price a little bit, so I hope you have your play sets. Otherwise, I'll talk about some other ways to play the game or play this deck. The reason why these searchers are going up is because this Nami is an EBO2 specific. For those newer players out there, EB sets are more rare to come by, and therefore these cards are going to be generally more expensive. Now, this Perona is an SR. It's a super rare, so you only get a handful of super rares per box, so these are automatically going to be more expensive. But more importantly, a new deck, or should I say an old deck, is getting some great cards. And that is Green Mihawk, and this card is meant for that deck. And so this card is now running about $15 a pop, maybe more by the time this video comes out. This card is running about $7 or $8 a card. If you are looking to play Brook, you really only need to focus on these Namis. You cannot really play the deck without these Namis, but you can organize the deck in such a way where you don't need the Peronas. That being said, I'm focusing on a slash package this video, so I will be playing with the Peronas and the Namis. The Nami is a top 5 Straw Hat search that does not pick up Nami, so you cannot pick up this blocker or this 8 cost, but you can pick up pretty much anything else. And then this Perona searcher searches slash type cards, so it's mostly the Zoros, the Shanks, and the Brook. But it also picks up green events. So it'll pick up Dead Man's Game or any other green events you might like to play. Next, we have our first 2K counter. This is a 1-cost 2K from the new Zoro starter deck. It is very nice to have for those matchups that go low and wide. Those tend to be our more difficult matchups. He has Character Rush, and his on play is to rest 1 character with a cost of 2 or less. So it's really just playing him down on 1 or 3 and getting rid of a small body that you know could pose an issue later in the game. And the same kind of goes with this next Zoro. He's a 4-cost 5K that does the same thing. He has character rush if your opponent has 2 or more characters on the field. So there's a little stipulation, but his on play is to rest 1 4-cost or less character. This is good for your even turn, and it is good to play off of a couple other characters if you're really trying to swing board. This is definitely a tech spot, this 4-cost Zoro. If you don't like him, you can always switch him out for something else. You can add another Luffy, add another Law, or go for a different 4 or 5-cost option. I like him. I think he helps with the even curve and helps maintain an early board state. And he's both searchable. He's searchable by both Perona and Nami, which is a plus. Next, we have 1 4-cost Nami. I put her at 1 because you don't really need to see her all the time, and she's not the most important, but she can have some game-changing and game-winning plays. So I like to have her as an option. Her on plays to rest 2 characters with a cost of 8 or less, and then you restand 5 Dawn at the end of your turn. The 5 Dawn was meant for Red Green Luffy. That's what this card came with. So that restanding of Dawn at the end of turn doesn't matter too much. You can pair it with Dead Man's Game, but the important part is she rests 2 8 costs, so that allows you to really clear a board or gives you some free space to just hammer at life. Very valuable play. Not necessary. She can also be subbed out. You could add a second one of her. Pretty much, so I don't repeat myself continuously, all the 2-ofs in 1 to 2-ofs in this deck, they can be subbed out. They can be, you can add more of them. They're all tech options because we're milling so many cards. We're trashing so many cards that we just want them in our trash to play off of Nami. Next, we have 6 costs Law. This is a new addition with the slash package that I like. He is a blocker if you have 1 or less life cards. And importantly, his on-play effect is you may return 1 character to hand and then play out 1 5-cost or less character as rested. This is similar to the Zoro. It's a great even option. The even curve on this deck was feeling really bad before all these new cards and before this slash package has kind of been reviewed. I've been kind of just messing with this on my own, taking a little inspiration here and there. If you do look up other Brook slash packages, they might be very different from this, and they might include many different cards, some of which I'll talk about at the end of this video, and some of which I hope that you explore yourself and find what works for you, because that's what Brook is really about. What ideally on a second curve, on an even curve, what happens is you have at least 1 Searcher, 1 of these Sanjis, or 1 of these Choppers or Gerds, 1 of these 20 cards in my hand. I just want 1 of them in my hand so I can play them out. Then on my 4 Dawn turn, I could play another one or play this Zoro. And then on my 6 Dawn turn, I can play this Law, pulling back 1 of these 2Ks or 1 of these Searchers and playing out a Pirate Docking from hand. It allows me to bring 2 characters out and really kind of gives me the even momentum that I'm losing. I put him at 2 because he's a brick, and you're not always on the even curve. And so if you're on the odd curve, you don't want to see him. He's kind of pointless because on 5 you'll play Docking, and on 7 you'll play Nightmare Luffy. So he's only for the even curve and making that feel like a good turn. Next we have Double Attack Luffy. I go back and forth on wanting this as a 1 or a 2 of. He is ultimately a brick, and you really just want to see him hit in trash, so that way you can play him off Nami again. So in this video, I had him at 1. At locals with my current OP16 list, I have him at 2. I think you could make an argument for either. And I will be testing him at 2 in the future. I just tested him at 1. His on-play effect is if your leader is multicolored, set up to 4 of your Dawn cards as active, then you cannot play a character or play you cannot play character cards with a base cost of 5 or more during this turn. So you really play him down, and then you either attach all the Dawn or you play down this Nami or this Zoro. The reason why I'm saying all these cards can be played off of this 8-cost Nami, which I'll talk about more, is that she gives the characters rush. So on an 8 or 9 Dawn turn, cheating out this 6-cost 7k that has double attack, meaning your opponent will take 2 life if the attack goes through. Playing this out with rush is a very sneaky move, and your opponents aren't really expecting it. It's hard to predict having a large double attack swing coming at you with rush. It's very unusual, so that's why this card is so good. It provides a very scary board presence. It can sneak some lethals. It can put your opponent in lethal range. There will be a video, at least one of the games that I play them out, and it gives me an advantage that I needed and would have lost the game without him. So if you like 2, play 2. I don't like to see him in hand. I just want to see him in trash. And so I keep him at 1 for now. Next, we have 6-cost Brook. He is an integral part of the puzzle. But again, he's only at 2 cards. His on-play is rest up to one of your opponent's cards. Card period. That could be Dawn. That could be Leader. That could be Blocker. Doesn't matter. It allows for some clean and open space to start swinging at life. And importantly, his activate main is you may trash this character if your leader has the Straw Hat Crew type, set up to one of your characters with a base cost of 8 or less as active. So he is great when paired in with this double attack Luffy, great when paired with this Nightmare Luffy. He sets these characters as active so I can swing again. This deck is all about a slow building of materials, and then boom, heavy hit, heavy hit, heavy hit. And this Brook, usually played in the late game, is a great addition to that. I put him at 2 because it was really between running 2 of Brook or 2 of Double Attack Luffy. Brook has counter, Double Attack Luffy does not. He's a good endgame option if you have them stuck in your hand, and Luffy is not. So Brook is a little bit more viable in different situations, and so that's why I have him at 2. Next, we have a one of Zoro. This is the only one of that I will talk about where you should not run 2 of them, and you should not run 0 of them. You need one of these in your deck. It is a great card. You never want it in hand, but you always want to have the option to play him. He's a 7-cost, 9,000 power brick, and his on-play is rest up to one of your opponent's cards, like Brook. Then you may trash 1 card from your hand. If you trash a card from your hand, you can give your leader 3 rested Dawn. This creates a brutal 9 Dawn play. So imagine this. On your 7 Dawn turn, you will be playing Nightmare Luffy. Then on your 9 Dawn turn, you play Nami, grabbing the Zoro from trash. On play, you rest their only blocker. You pitch a brick from hand, and then you give your leader 3 Dawn, and you're swinging 8, 9, 10. And your opponent has had 1 blocker, felt safe, you rested it, you swung 8, 9, 10. It is just an unbelievably powerful play. You want to see this guy in your trash. Do anything to get him in your trash. If you search past him, throw him to the top of the search, so that way he will get to your trash sooner. I cannot emphasize how important it is for this character to be in your trash. It is so good. And the last green character is the only OP17 green character that I am including. It is a game-changing card. I'm sure that if you've been paying attention, you see that green Mihawk is on the rise, green Shanks is on the rise, the leader, because this Shanks card is just so powerful. It is a 10-cost, 12,000 power character with Rush. On play, set 2 of your Dawn cards as active, so it's really an 8-cost 12k character. Then you may rest all of your opponent's characters. It is just the best card that green could possibly have. With Brook, I honestly think that this card is the best in Brook, because when you're on your 10 Dawn turn, the game is starting to come to a close. You really want to go for lethal. Ideally, you at least have a Nightmare Luffy on the board. You play this 10 cost 12k option. Now you have 3 attacks with Leader, Nightmare Luffy, Shanks. Then it restands 2 Dawn, so that way you can use these 1-cost mill cards to get your deck down to 0, and then use Leader effect to restand Shanks and swing again. That is at least 2 12k swings in 1 turn. It is the best 8 Dawn you'll ever spend. I cannot overemphasize how awesome this card is. I run him at 3 because he's slash searchable. And you cannot pull him from your trash. There's no way to get him out of your trash. You just need to draw into him or search him with Perona. But at the same time, you really don't need more than one of these in your hand. If you have one in your hand and you play him, that should be your last turn of the game. If you're playing down 10-cost Shanks and you have one more turn, you better hope that they can't clap back, because then your opponent will be going for lethal because they know they cannot get rid of this character and they will lose the game next turn. So this is a great finisher, and I can't wait to actually have it in person. Next, we'll go on to the black characters. This is mostly focusing on our actual core engine. This Sanji is a 2k counter, and all it does is mill 5 cards from the top of your deck. This is a late game piece. You may be tempted. It's 1 Dawn. You may be tempted to play it early on. I don't recommend it. You want to hold on to as many 2Ks as you can, so that way you can kind of save your way through the end game. But his more important attribute is this top 5 mill, and you want to save him for that last turn paired with Shanks or paired with Nami, so that way you can use Leader effect, get your deck down to 0, and go for lethal. He's too valuable to play early on. That was something that I had to learn through a lot of playtesting. The only time that you would ever play him early game is if you are on an even curve and you have this 6-cost law and can bounce him back to your hand. He's too important to have in hand and to have to ensure an end game win. Next, we have Chopper. This is arguably one of the most important cards of the whole deck. This card is what gets your engine going. He, on play, trashes 3 cards, and then you can use your Activate main to trash him and grab any Straw Hat type card other than himself from the trash. So this is where it gets a little complicated. You have to always be watching your trash, be looking at your hand, and really think, what is the most important thing that I should pull from the trash? Oftentimes, I recommend, if you don't see what you need, to just leave him on the board, let him sit for a little bit. But recently, with all this counter against Anil and Green-Blue Luffy, there is a lot of new characters that rest, KO, or character rush, like the Zoro, these chump characters. So just know your matchups. Be careful playing this Chopper. If you don't feel safe, you can just activate his main immediately, trash him, grab what you need. But I have been punished before many times where I grab a docking from trash and then I top deck one, or I grab one from life. And that just never feels good, grabbing a brick that you need for your engine and then drawing into it just like literally the next turn. So be careful, but make sure you're always keeping track of how many of which cards are in your trash, how much life you have, what you need for future turns. This is the big setup for your mid game leading to your late game. The second new OP17 card that is a beautiful, beautiful addition to this deck is this Gerd. It is slash searchable, which is very important. You have to remember that Perona can search this card. Her innate effect is useless. We do not have an Elbaf type leader, but her on play is where she shines. You may trash 1 card from your hand, add up to 1 character with a cost of 8 or less from your trash, other than Gerd, to your hand. This is just a pseudo Chopper. It is a 2k counter. It makes this deck so much more consistent. With the original normal build, you do not run Perona, and obviously this is OP17, so we don't have this Gerd. So if you don't see Nami or Chopper early on, things can get a little scary. When you don't get your engine going, you're not trashing enough cards, you're not getting your pieces, and things start to fall apart. But this Gerd is not only searchable, it's also a 2k counter, and it's a 2-Don play for when you don't have a chopper in hand. It is just, it ups the consistency of this deck so much, and I'm very excited to mess around with it. Next, we have Docking. Pirate Docking 6 is your only 5-Don play. It is the only card you need for 5-Don. If you're at 5-Don and you don't have this card, just keep playing Choppers, keep playing Gerds, keep playing Searchers. If you're at 5-Don and you're wondering what to play, you play Docking. You will not play Docking ever past 5-Don. This is the only time you'll play it. It is a brick. It is a 5 cost 7,000 power character. On play, trash 3 cards from your deck and play a 2 cost or less Straw Hat type character. 90% of the time, you're just bringing out Chopper and milling more and drawing another card from your trash. This is used in the new Black Luffy. So you may be wondering, well, do any of the new 2-cost characters for Black Luffy really fit in this deck? Besides Gerd, obviously, some of the Straw Hat characters. I say no. I can't figure it out. It doesn't feel consistent. And really, we're just trying to build up to this end game. So I think Chopper is the only target that Docking really wants to see right now. But I hope I'm proven wrong and that they release some support that is not just completely dedicated to Elbaf typing. Next, we have Nightmare Luffy. I know I've said this a couple times, but Nightmare Luffy is like an integral part of this deck. Might actually be the only card that you have to see on curve. I know I just said that about Docking, but if you miss Docking, then there's other ways to do it. Nightmare Luffy, you are always putting down at 7-Don. If you have one Chopper, if you have one Searcher, you're grabbing Nightmare Luffy. This card is fantastic. If you don't know what it does, there's a lot of text, but I will try to summarize it as easy as possible. Nightmare Luffy's power, like in the show, his power grows with the amount of shadows he consumes, so the amount of cards in your trash. At 10 cards in your trash, this character gains plus 10 costs, so he avoids a lot of these resting and freezing mechanics. And he gains plus 2,000 power. Then, he doesn't gain plus 2,000 power. His base power becomes 9,000. The reason I clarify that is because there are rules in this game that are actually different depending on if it's a power increase or base power change. So keep that in mind as well. At 20 cards in your trash, you hit the very important milestone where on your opponent's turn, your leader becomes 7,000 power. This is what I mean by you kind of want to build up into this big end game, because now you have a 7,000 power defensive leader and a 9,000 power character on the board, and things get a lot harder for your opponent to actually succeed. And then finally, once you reach 30 cards in your trash, Luffy gains plus 1,000 power. And now this one specifically says gains plus 1,000 power. All right, our last character is 8-cost Nami. Now, this card is fantastic, obviously. It is the end of our engine, of our core engine. Obviously, Shanks is a good 10-Don option, but this would be the final play of our core engine. It's a perfect 9-Don turn where you play it down. Her on play is, if your leader is Straw Hat Crew, play one Straw Hat type character with a cost of 7 or less from your trash. Then that character gains Rush. So now notice she can play Namis. You know, obviously this Nami Searcher can't search Namis, but our 8-cost Nami can, if she wants to, play a Nami card. I've done this before where you're kind of in a desperate state to rest things, rest multiple things, and you play Nami into Nami. But ideally, this is your turn to really go hard. Like I said before, you want to go Nami into Zoro, Nami into Double Attack Luffy, Nami into Brook, and sometimes Nami into Nightmare Luffy. Normally, you have a Nightmare Luffy already on board, so it's better to do something that provides a little more value, other than just a big body. But sometimes the case is, especially if you're going up against like a leader that is able to increase their power, sometimes you need a 10,000 power character. She provides a lot of versatility, And this is the part of the engine where you start to really plan ahead, start to think about your upcoming turns and the most amount of value you can get from one of the cards in your trash. For our events, we are doing Dead Man's Game. Very simple. The main is you may rest 3 Dawn cards, so this will cost 4 cards because of the 1 cost in the corner. Rest 2 of your opponent's characters or Dawn cards. This is great. Rest a blocker, rest some Dawn that they leave up for events. It is just a green staple, and it has a 1 cost 3k counter stipulation. There's no reason not to include this card in this deck. The final card is this 0 cost Swallow Bond an Avant. I don't know if that's the actual name of it. Sometimes the sim is switches the names a little bit, but this is another mill option and another very important part of this deck. This event and this Sanji are your only cards that mill 5. They both cost 1 to mill 5, so it's really important to make sure when you're doing lethal math that you save 1 Dawn if you want to spend these to mill. And it's a trash 1 card. Trash this card and 1 card from your hand, gain 3,000 power. So it's a 3k, no Dawn requirement, but you do have to trash a card from hand. It's just a classic 0 cost counter event. Now, when I look at this deck in all, there are some 1-ofs and 2-ofs and some 4-ofs, and you have to think, especially if you're trying to build your own Brook deck, which cards should be full play sets, which ones can I have a little leeway on. You want full play sets of both Searchers, of Sanji, and your trash grabbers, and you want a full play set of this Nightmare Luffy and another full play set of this mill. All your mills, all your Searchers, and Nightmare Luffy need to be at 4. Many actually do believe that this Nami should also be at 4. In OP16, if you're trying to build Brook right now, you can put her at 4. It can't hurt. Having back-to-back Namis is a really strong play. But with this slash variation, on my 10 Dawn turn, I'm not trying to play a second Nami. I want to play this Shanks. So I only need to see 1 Nami. I only need to see 1 Shanks. I only need to see 1 docking. That's why these are all at 3. And the 1s and 2-ofs, I don't need to see them throughout the game. I need them in my trash. So that's kind of how you want to think about Brook, is the 4-ofs you need to see, and it would be great to have multiple of them. The 3-ofs you just need to see once, and the 1 to 2-ofs you just want to see in your trash at some point during the game. That's the overview of the Brook deck list. I apologize if that took a while. I just want to make sure that I'm very thorough with my reasoning, and for those newer players out there, or those new Brook players out there, how the game looks and what the setup should look like. So with all that said, let's move into some of these games. All right, to start off, we are going to play against Black Luffy. His effect is if you have a character with a cost of 12 or more, they gain blocker. This will probably be one of our easier matchups. I have had close games against Black Luffy. I'm going to show one where the deck kind of performs well. This game specifically is also on the even curve, so we're testing out the new Slash package and seeing how it looks on even. This game will feel a lot better than some of the other games. I've purposely have chosen some games that feel good, where I have control, and some games where I'm just dealt a bad hand and you have to do what you can. So let's start. I draw into a 10 cost Shanks, a Nightmare Luffy, a Perona, a DMG, and a 0 cost event. I mulligan because I want to see more options. Seeing a Shanks is great, but I kind of wanted to see more starting options, make sure I have my engine going, especially on my even curve. So I mulligan. I see a lot of Slash characters, so I drop my Nami first, finding a Chopper, perfect. I throw my 0 cost event to the top in case I see it later. And then I search for Perona, or use a Perona searcher, apologies. I'm debating between Brook and DMG. Those are my only 2 targets. I grab DMG because Luffy is a blocker deck, so resting's just going to feel really good. I'm not sure how well Luffy is going to do in the meta just because there is so much green and so much resting coming about, and he relies so heavily on blockers. I just don't know what's going to happen with him. So I take my first life. I almost always take my first life. I'll probably mention that more in this video. And I get a 10 cost Shanks. Then I draw into a 2 cost Gerd. I'm really seeing everything I need. It's feeling nice. I play down Chopper. I'm looking for either a Nami or a docking. I'm trying to plan out my next couple of turns. I believe that I'm a little bit greedy since I have such a good hand right now. I'm a little greedy in what my next play is going to be because I wanted to show off how the slash engine and the even engine works. So I grab a docking to play for my 6th Dawn turn. But I'm thinking, in 6th Dawn I can hard play docking, have an extra Dawn. It's never a terrible play. But I have 4 2Ks in hand and a counter event. I'm feeling greedy. I say, let's do this. I drop the Gerd, trash a Gerd to grab my Bounce Law. So next turn I'm going to play my Bounce Law and bring the 2K back to hand, play out docking, making my board a little bit wider and a little bit more threatening. I don't know if that's the optimal play or not. I'm just testing things out. I want to see how it looks, ultimately. Then I swing for 5. My opponent takes it, and I pass the turn. My opponent trashes Chopper to grab a OP17 Brook, which is the new 2 cost, where it forces me to trash a card. I'm a little surprised. Then he plays 2 cost Frankie, whose effect does not go off because there is not a 12 cost character on the board. He plays an Usopp to search, grabbing a Jinbei blocker, and swings for 6. I just 2K out of it. Not a big deal. I'm not sure if that was a misplay or not, or if he's just trying to go wide before he drops a 12 cost character. But regardless, I do my play. I play my 6 cost Law, bring back Gerd, play out Docking, which plays out Chopper, and now I'm looking for something to grab with Chopper. I see the 8 cost Nami, and I go for it just because I don't want him to actually play the Frankie and get value off of it in a future turn. And I swing for 5. My opponent's probably going to counter out of this. It would be very greedy to take this life. My hand is set for this next turn. I can either slow play, hard dropping Luffy and then Nami and then Shanks, or I can take things a little bit faster and just play Nami into Nightmare Luffy and then into Shanks. So it kind of depends on your even curve, how quickly you want to end the game, or if you want to postpone it. If you want to hard play Luffy, then next turn play Nami, and then that third turn play Shanks, or skip the hard play, go Nami into Luffy, and Shanks as a final play. My opponent does counter out, and then I pass the turn. He plays a docking, getting rid of 3 cards, obviously, and he's choosing a 2 cost character to play. Plays Chopper, then plays a Thousand Sunny. It's a great stage. It's needed in this deck. It turns docking into a 12 cost character, allowing Frankie and Usopp to reach their potential of being 5k bodies, 5,000 power bodies. Luffy swings for 6. I'm just going to take this. I'm in a very comfortable position. And of course, I'm punished. I see the 8 cost Nami that I just searched with Chopper. That's why you always have to be thinking about when you want to use Chopper's Activate main. It happens more often than you think, where you grab a docking or a Nami, and then you end up drawing into it. But I'm in a little bit of a commanding position. My hand looks really great. I'm not worried about it. I do end up, since I do have a second Nami, I'm just say, okay, might as well play it out instead of hard playing Nightmare Luffy. So I play Nami into Nightmare Luffy. I swing for 5. They counter. I swing for 6. They will probably counter out of this too, because a 7k and a 9k swing are on their way. Yeah, so I swing for 7. They take it, and then I swing for 9, and they probably take this too. There we go. My opponent is already down to 2 life. They don't have a very strong board, especially since I'm now a 7,000 power leader due to the Nightmare Luffy's effect. And I have a ton of cards in hand. Now, I've played other games with Luffy where they're a little more aggressive. They can get their bodies to 5,000 power very quickly, especially if they have a Gerd in their starting hand. And they can poke 5/5/5, which is generally a weakness for Brook, but didn't happen this game, which is why I think this matchup does well, because even at their best, it's still very winnable. My opponent plays a blocker Jinbei and then a Loki. The Loki KOs my Perona. He doesn't have any other targets for that. And then he swings 6 and a 6. I'm going to protect this. I have a lot of counter in hand. I'm going to have some very strong plays coming. I don't need Nightmare Luffy for a future turn, so, straight to the trash you go. I just briefly hovered over my deck there. I was at 10 cards. I draw for turn. I'm at 9. So I'm kind of trying to figure out what the lethal is. I drop my 10 cost Shanks, and my opponent immediately leaves the game. The win is, it's very obvious. They had 3 blockers. Now they have no blockers. I have a ton of swings coming in. And then on top of it, I can drop Sanji, use leader ability to mill. It'll get me exactly down to 0 because I have 9 cards left. And then I'd restand Shanks for game. This is just a perfectly clean game. If every Brook game could look like this, it would be awesome. But I think my opponent was off to too slow of a start and was not able to take advantage of their little bodies becoming 5,000 power characters fast enough. Not much to say about it. It was a very clean game. Let's move on to the next one. Alright guys, for our next game, we have OP17 Yellow Charlotte Lin Lin. Her leader ability is very cool. I like it. I'm excited to try it out myself. It is when attacking, as in when the leader attacks, you may trash 1 card with a trigger from your hand and choose one of two, force your opponent to choose one of 2 options. Your opponent may trash a random card from their hand, or Charlotte Lin Lin may trash an extra card, so that's 2 total cards, and gain a life. Your opponent gets to make that decision. It's very fun because every time you attack, you're really forcing your opponent to make a game-altering decision, whether they lose a random card or you let your opponent gain a life. I tend to let Lin Lin gain a life every time. That means it's 2 cards out of hand every turn. I think that's the obvious choice. It may be different with other decks where you are able to accumulate a lot of cards and you're fine with losing whatever. But Brook is very specific. You really want 1 card of each part of the game. You'll want like a 5-cost docking, a Nightmare Luffy, a Nami, and a Shanks. So if you lose one of those, things become very difficult. So that's how I'll be playing the game. You just let them gain life and you starve them. It is pretty solid. I remember this game. Most of the Lin Lin games have been going very smoothly. I mulligan my first hand because I do not want that 7-cost Zoro in hand. I want it in trash. So I start off by milling and playing a Nami Searcher. Pretty ideal. Just a reminder, Nami cannot search Nami, so I do lose this 8-cost. And so the only target in that search was the 1-cost Zoro, which is totally fine. My opponent does not have a 2-don turn, so they pass. I mill again, and now I have 2 more searchers. It's just, we're searching, we're trying to find something for our engine, looking for a chopper, looking for a docking. I do not see either in my searches. I did see a docking in my Perona search, but unfortunately, you cannot grab him. So I grab what I can, and I pass the turn. So my opponent, this is their first attacking turn, where I will have to make the decision of whether to lose a card or allow them to gain a life. My opponent does not have a 4-don turn, which is pretty nice. They swing for 9. I let them pitch a card so that they can gain a life, just whittle down their hand size, and I take it. There's no point in countering out of that. We're totally fine. So now we draw into a Gerd. Very lucky. This is why this card is so important. She is perfect for trying to find all of your parts. So I pitch a brick, grab a chopper, play it, and then I'm probably going to grab an 8-cost Nami. It is really the only card that I could play because I have Nightmare Luffy already. I swing for 6. My opponent probably should take it, but I believe they actually counter it. My opponent counters out with a Zeus, so that is why I popped my Chopper early, because you really just never know with yellow, a lot of removal, so I did not want them to get any value from that. My opponent plays a 3-cost 4K Bonnie and attaches 1 Dawn, because if you don't know her effect, when she has 1 Dawn attached, if your opponent loses a life, you draw 2 trash 1, I believe. So they attach 1 and then they attach 2 to leader, swing for 7. I don't want them to get any value off this Bonnie right now, especially since they just pitched so many cards from hand to gain a life. So I do use a 0-cost 3K event to get out of the 7. Normally, I'd be very comfortable taking that. I draw into a 10-cost Shanks. Things are looking good. Even though I didn't really see my engine to start, I do now have a Nightmare Luffy, a Nami, and a Shanks. These are it's the exact order of endgame options that you'd like. I swing for 5, and my opponent counters out again. I'm not really sure why. I think they just want to build as much life as possible, gain a lead, and try to do some damage, but they have so much life. Might as well take the card to hand, have more value. This might be a newer player. They might be testing stuff out. So they drop a 5-cost 4K Charlotte Smoothie, one of the new cards. She is a 5-cost, but to get her effect, you have to rest 2 Dawn. So really, she's a 7-cost. You gain a life, and then she forces me to trash a card. At least I get to choose the card, so I just get rid of the 4-cost Zoro. I regret getting rid of the 4-cost Zoro, because I go Nami into Nightmare Luffy, into Double Attack Luffy, restanding Dawn. If I'd saved that 4-cost Zoro, I could have played it, rested the Bonnie, and swung to the Bonnie. But it's okay. It's time to go life. 7 life is no joke, even though they have 2 cards in hand. So I go for life. They take the double attack, trigger out 1 Hogback, and see no trigger in the second card. I'm looking at their trash because I want to see if they actually have a Hogback target, and they don't. So I'm thinking, is it best to go for the Hogback now, or should I save it for later? Ultimately, I end up deciding to go for life, I believe. The Hogback is not too much of a problem. I'm a 7K leader. I'm not too worried about it. If he becomes a problem later, then I'll deal with him later. He still has... Lin Lin still has no targets in trash, so I decided to whittle down their life while I have a strong opportunity to, in case they throw down blockers or get rid of any of my cards. I swing for 7, they take it. I swing for 9, they take it. There is no trigger on either of those cards, and then I drop a 1-cost Nami Search. Probably could have kept one up for DMG, but I feel pretty comfortable, pretty safe. They have a lot of low-cost characters. I grab a Sanji because I did not see my full mill engine in the mid-game. Didn't see docking, so I'm definitely going to need to mill cards if I want to use my leader ability at the end of the game. My opponent is on their 10 Dawn turn, so they could drop 10 cost Big Mom, but they don't. They attach 1 Dawn, and they get ready to swing. They actually drop a 5-cost Nami, so that gives them a free draw 2 trash 1 with the Bonnie effect, because they decided to attach 1 Dawn to her. Very solid play. But now they don't have a ton of Dawn to work with to get swings. Instead, they decided to go 10, and 10 into face at that. If I were them, I only have 5 cards in hand. You go hard into that double attack Luffy. But as I'm pointing out right now, I'm pointing at my Shanks and my Sanji. I need both those cards. I can't risk losing them, so I allow my opponent to keep whittling down their hand size. Gain a life, not a problem with me. And then I'm probably going to take this. It's not worth countering out of. Then my opponent passes the turn. This is my 10 Dawn turn. I'm trying to think, should I go for lethal now? 4 life is a lot, and there are potential triggers. But at the same time, I have a pretty big board. I play 10 cost Shanks, resting down their entire board, and I swing double attack Luffy to life. I want to see what they do. If they take both, then lethal is much more likely, right? Because they're at 2, I have a ton of swings left, and I could even restand double attack Luffy if I wanted to. My opponent decides to counter out pretty heavily, and by heavily I mean just a 2 and a 1, but now they only have 2 cards left in hand. I'm looking at their trash. There's still no hogback target. I got too excited and I ended up swinging 5 into Bonnie first. I want to start off with my low attacks and then go higher. But as I'm sure you guys are cringing about, and I recognize in just a second, I actually just gave Hogback a target after looking at that trash twice and, double checking, triple checking. I allow Bonnie to come back out off of the Hogback on KO effect, which brings back a 4 cost or less with a trigger. Oh well, not the cleanest game, but what can you do? Mistakes happen. So he plays that out. And then I was kind of baiting them to play out something off Nami. They play out Borsellino. No on play effect. It's a blocker. Blocker's good, but they're probably not going to swing with it, which is what I was most worried about, is them having too many swings this upcoming turn. So it is now my opponent's 10 Dawn turn. They have a 4,000 power Bonnie, a 6,000 power Borsellino that is a blocker, and leader. So my opponent plays the new 10 cost 12k Lin Lin. I'm unsure why it did not give Jewelry Bonnie plus put them to an 8,000 power base. I believe it's supposed to do that for all characters with a trigger and a base power of 4,000. Maybe it's the sim just isn't quite updated. Basu's done a great job putting these new cards up early, but not all of them are finalized and completely understood yet. So I swing for 7. I want to see what my opponent does. Again, I have a lot of options here. I have Dead Man's Game. I can mill now. I can mill later. I can search. I feel pretty confident in extending if I need to. My opponent actually takes the double attack. I assume they just want cards in hand, or we're hoping for a trigger. But now that I'm looking at the board, they have 3 life and 1 blocker, and I have a lot of attacks coming in, and I have the mill if I need to use it. So I'm thinking, you know what? Why don't I just take this 4 Dawn that I was going to attach? They don't have a lot of cards right now anyway, so let's just use it and get rid of their Borsellino. So that's what I'm trying to calculate right now. Is it worth it? I do use Borsellino on the Bonnie as well, just because if I do need to pivot board, she's a much easier target than the 12,000 power Lin Lin. Now I'm just counting out my Dawn. I'm probably going to swing 7 with Nami, 7 with Leader, and then 10 with Nightmare Luffy, and then double attack. I apologize. Swing twice with Shanks with Leader ability. I'm counting out all of my swings right now and trying to predict for the worst. If they, cheat out a chump blocker, can I rest it? If they Moria trigger, can I get through if they gain another life? They do have a Zoro in trash. So I'm trying to think about all the possibilities. You kind of have to think extra hard about that when you're playing yellow. You can't just say, oh, they have this amount of life, let's swing this amount of times. It's for sure gonna, go through. So that's why I was highlighting my double attack Luffy there. I could always mill out and restand double attack Luffy if there is a trigger that allows Lin Lin to gain another life, which would really throw off my lethal calculations. But they counter out, they take 1/7, they counter out of another 7, they're probably going to take the 10, and then on its way are 2 12s. At least 2 12s. So I do swing for 12 first. I keep 3 Dawn active in case I need to use the Perona Searcher or the Zoro, or worst case scenario, attach 3 Dawn to Nami and swing into that Bonnie. But there's no trigger, so I think, okay, this is it. I mill, attach 3 Dawn to Shanks, swing for 15, and it's over. GG's. I think that they were a little greedy, countering out of too many swings early on, but you do have to be careful of Brook. You take life very quickly, so I see the other side. Let's move on to the next one. All right, for our next game, we have a green Shanks. This is going to be a very powerful leader in OP17. His leader effect is you may rest 1 Dawn or trash 1 card from your hand, and one of your opponent's rested characters will not become active during their next turn. Very strong. Freeze 1 character of any cost, any size. It's pretty good. I mulliganed my first hand because I didn't see exactly what I wanted to see, and my mulligan was pretty terrible. It happens. So 1 Dawn turn, I have no play. I mill 3 Dawn. I play Perona and whiff. Things are not good. They could definitely be better. I've missed my entire engine at this point. But part of the playing Brook is sometimes you don't see the engine, you try and make it as flawless as possible, but it just doesn't work all the time. So I play the Perona, mill, pass, wait for my opponent. He plays another Perona, uh, grabbing Smoker, and swings for 8. I take this. I try to be pretty greedy with my life, at least my first life, sometimes my second, just to see what I can get if I can fulfill my engine. I draw into the new card, Gerd. I'm going to pause real quick to talk about her. Her on play is I'm a trash 1 card from hand and grab an 8 cost or lower character from my trash. It's perfect. It's slash searchable. It's a 2K counter. I can grab any 8 cost card. It's just great. So I play this out for 2, and I have 3 remaining Dawn. I'm looking for a Chopper, and I realize somehow I have not milled a Chopper yet. Very embarrassing. So I decide to grab a Nami Searcher, test my luck, and Chopper is the next card. So then I play out Chopper, and I pitch him for, I don't know, maybe a 2K. Yeah, I grab a 2K. I don't have a docking in my trash, but there's no need for a docking. My 5 Dawn turn is done. I have no time to play him throughout the rest of the game anyways. My trash is at 15 right now. It's something to keep an eye on as you're playing Brook, is to just make sure your trash is at an appropriate level, because Nightmare Luffy's effect occurs at 20. So they play Mihawk and a Smoker, swing for 6. I need 1 more card in my trash, so I counter out. So now my trash is at 16. I mill, it's at 20, and now my Nightmare Luffy's effect is able to proc. If I had not done that, it would have been a little more difficult to defend this turn. So you got to think ahead a little bit on those things. Swing for 5. He counters out. I drop my Nightmare Luffy and pass the turn. Very simple turn. If you see everything in Brook, your first couple turns are just going to be dropping stuff, swing for 5, and passing. So my opponent swings 7 with Mihawk. I'm going to counter out of this. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm going to take it so that way I can counter out of Smoker. I do not want to deal with his banish ability. Even though things in the trash aren't the worst, things in hand are better. My opponent plays Blocker Law, pulling back a Searcher and playing out the new Odin. He doesn't really have a good target to rest, but it's a good body on the board. It filters hand. You draw 1. Pretty good. He plays another Perona, trying to filter out his hand even more. I probably would have just attached the Dawn that was up, but he could be bricked up. So he draws a new starter deck Kinemon. He rests his leader to do a draw 2 trash 1. It makes sense. Might as well rest the leader. I'm a 7k leader, so he can't swing with it anyways. Get some value out of that. He attaches 1 Dawn to Smoker. I'm going to 2k out of that. You're going to have to work harder. I drew into a 10 cost Shanks, so things are looking really good right now. My opponent is at 4 life, so I have to start whittling down his hand size. I want to see what he does. I'm going to play Nami into something. Probably double attack Luffy. I swing for 5. I'm trying to get a card out, and my opponent actually takes the 5, which makes me think he does not have a lot of counter in hand. So I want to take advantage of this, and I attach 1 Dawn to my Nightmare Luffy, and I attack his most frustrating character on the board, which is Smoker, which would take 2 2Ks to get out of, and I believe my opponent does choose to save Smoker. Yes, drops 2 2Ks. I'm thinking, okay, this is great. You took a 5 and give me 2 2Ks. You are probably low on counter right now. I bring out double attack Luffy. I attach everything to him, swing for 11. Now my opponent is at 1 life. Bit of a complicated turn. Hopefully that wasn't too confusing. But now my big bodies are pretty vulnerable, especially since Shanks can keep one of these permanently frozen. So I have to be aware of this. And when you're going up against Shanks, you always have to remember that that's a possibility and be able to play around it. Which is why I'm glad I brought out double attack Luffy, to really get him to a lethal range. My opponent decides to play 10 cost Shanks. I think it would have been better just to attach all of his Dawn onto his existing characters and really pressured my board, but he decides to play the Shanks. It's a great card. It puts a lot of pressure on. My My opponent swings 6 and a 6. I'm going to let him have it. I'm just doing the math of what happens when he attaches Dawn to his Shanks and swings into my Nightmare Luffy. That would not be good. It would take a lot of cards from hand. But he does not go for Nightmare Luffy. The 9k is too scary. He decides to go 12 and a 7. My double attack Luffy has served his purpose. He got him down to 1 life. It's just a 7k body now, so I let him go. My opponent decides to swing 7 to life. I believe I counter this. I'm a little nervous about going too low in life. I don't want to be at 0 life in case I have to extend the game, but I will realize very shortly that there is no extending this game. His board is too wide, and he has frozen my Nightmare Luffy, which puts me in a very vulnerable state. He swings for 7, I take it. Swings for 7, banish. I believe I counter out of this. I am guessing that he's going to use this Dawn to keep my Luffy frozen, but instead my opponent decides to pitch a card. He pitches a brick, and yeah, he pitches a 6-cost Law, freezing my Nightmare Luffy. So I know he has an event. He has 1 event, 1 blocker, 1 life. In any normal situation, this might be a very difficult thing to overcome, but luckily we are the best deck in format, and we have ways to get around this. So I'm trying to count if it's more realistic to use DMG and try to go for lethal, but it's pretty clear that DMG is not enough. I need 2 solid swings. So I decide to play 10-cost Shanks. I look at my deck. I believe I have 12 cards left, which means I need to mill. So I swing for 5 to get a card out of hand, which is perfect. Then I can't attach any Dawn. I swing for 12. I leave these 2 Dawn active, and these 2 active Dawn are the best part of this new Shanks because of this exact situation where I have 12 cards left in my deck because I didn't see my engine early on. And now I can drop a 10-cost character, play 2 cards that mill, use leader effect, restand Shanks, swing again. My opponent drops a 3k, 2 2ks, but doesn't have anything else, is bricked up. Perfectly calculated, never punished. GG's. Let's move on to the next one. Alright, the last leader that I'm going to talk about right now, it's not an OP17 leader, but it's a leader that many fear, which is Green Mihawk. There are multiple things going on with Green Mihawk. I'm going to pause very quickly. His activate main is you may rest 1 card and restand 3 Dawn. Then if you do, you cannot play any characters for the rest of the turn. But what makes this matchup so hard, especially for Brook, is we are a slash leader, he's a slash leader, so that means he is a 6,000 power leader for the entire game. This is not great for us. It's definitely manageable, but it's an unnecessary nerf to Brook, I feel like. So it's worth practicing this, getting used to the matchup, and always remembering that your opponent will be at 6,000 life. In my starting hand, I have a Perona and a Chopper. That's perfect. I think that if you ever see a Chopper in your starting hand, that is an automatic hand to keep. If you find a Searcher with it, even better. So I play Perona, and I see a DMG, I see a 2K, and I see a 10-cost Shanks. All 3 of those are great searchable options, but I ultimately grab the Shanks. This card is a lifesaver. It wins games. I cannot stress how important it is to have at least 1 10-cost Shanks in your hand throughout the game. My opponent draws an Odin with his Perona Search and passes the turn. I mill. I see 2 dockings, so that is pretty great, and I draw into an 8-cost Nami. So I'm seeing my full engine. Things are looking good. I drop Chopper. All 3 dockings are in here, so I feel very comfortable grabbing 1 now. Sometimes you want to be careful grabbing a brick too early because you can draw into it from hand or life from your deck, or from your life, I mean. So it can be difficult. My opponent drops a 4-cost Zoro blocker and swings 6 into life. I really want to get rid of this blocker. I rest things. It's what I do. I do not want him living for very long, especially when it comes to the end game. I counted 2 of my other Shankses already in the trash, as well as that 7-cost Zoro. Both of those are very good cards. 7-cost Zoro is particularly great to cheat off of Nami. So I'm really highlighting this Zoro blocker. I need to get rid of him. I do not want him on the board. Now I'm just deciding what I want to do with this Chopper. I'm considering pulling back that 4-cost EBO1 Zoro or this 4-cost Nami to try and rest him early while there's only 2 cards on the board and he can't use his effect, which is if this character would be rested, you may rest one of your other characters. So I'm really taking my time thinking about this. I want this 4-cost Nami potentially to play off double attack Luffy. If I play Nami into double attack Luffy, I restand Dawn, and I can play this 4-cost Nami to rest my opponent's board and kind of take care of that. However, Mihawk fills out the board very nicely, and that allows this 4-cost Zoro to have many targets. Mihawk and Odin is a great combo, and it actually prevents my docking from resting because it's an original power of 6 cost, or base cost of 6, rather than its actual cost. So I swing 2 into 2 for Perona. I want this off the board. I'm trying to get as many targets as possible and make it difficult for Mihawk to use his ability. I can't swing docking because of Odin. I put everything into Perona and he lets it go. I'm glad that he used a counter to get rid of it. It makes things easy for me. Or to save it and then swing with leader makes things great. That's less cards in hand. Play Nightmare Luffy and pass the turn. My opponent uses swing 7 into 7. I give him a 1 for that. I don't need this other Nightmare Luffy. He plays another Odin Raw. That is a good play, obviously. Prevents one of my attacks. Draws a card. He plays Stage, so now he has a free thing to rest. But I think I got lucky. There could have been more daunting plays. He could have played another Mihawk combo. He swings 8. I give him a 2K. I don't want to get too low because I know he's about to swing for 9, and I believe I take this. I'm kind of in a pickle right now. I could 0-cost event, but I might need to end the game early in mill. So I'm only at 7 cards, which is great, which means I'm within lethal range, or within the range of using my leader ability to end the game. I'm looking for my double attack Luffy to play Nami off of, so that way I can try and clear up this board just a little bit. Things are really tough, but I didn't have double attack Luffy in my trash, so I end up going for a Zoro, and I'm going to try and rest this blocker just to see what he does. If he chooses to rest his Odin, it's definitely swing board all day. Well, I'm swinging board all day either way. It's too dangerous right now. I don't like the look of this. Too many 7s. If he drops the Shanks, he goes 7, 7, 7, 12, and that's scary. So I go to rest the Zoro, and he lets it go. I trash a card to give my Brook leader 3 Dawn, and I'm going to swing pretty heavy into board. I don't really like what he's building here. He lets the Zoro go immediately. So then I 8 into 4, he lets it go. 9 into 6, he lets it go. 10 into 7, I worry that he's going to use one of his events, especially I can't remember the name of it, that gives 4,000 power if you rest another card, but he lets that go too. Now I'm worried, and I'm thinking, what is he up to? Is he just bricked up, or does he not care? And then he plays down 10-cost Shanks. That was, I could see that from a mile away. 10 Dawn turn, it's just the card to play right now. He restands 2 with Shanks, and then restands 3 with leader ability, meaning he just played a 5-cost 12k rush character. Wild. I understand why everyone is hyping on the Mihawk train, and he just stacks it all on and goes 70 into 10. I don't know if I want to say this. That is way too much counter from hand. I don't even know if I have that much counter in hand. I have the 3k event and 1 2k and 3 1ks. It's not worth it. I let it go. Then he swings 6 and a 5. He's going to do 2 6s into lead. I give him 1 2k, and then on this one, I'm not sure if I take it or if I counter out. I just use DMG. He has no blockers up. Take this event. I don't need it right now. I want to preserve at least 1 life. Now I'm in a struggle because that's a big body on the board. He could drop another I don't have a ton of counter in hand, and so I'm trying to figure out what the most opportune play is here. Luckily, he only has 7 cards in hand, which, I say only 7, but with Mihawk, it can get pretty nasty. I swing 6 and a 6 and gives me a 1. I like that. I'm getting cards out of hand. I'm going to pivot board. I'm going to see if I can stall one more turn. I go 7 and a 6. He gives me a 2K. I go 9 and a 6. He'll probably let this go. Great. Then I think what to play. I played Chopper to grab a Nami. Well, I was initially going to grab a Nightmare Luffy, and I think, why keep the extra Dawn up? Let's put on some pressure. I grab a Nami, so that way I can play Nightmare Luffy off of her, getting me back to a 7K leader, hitting face for 10, and passing the turn. My opponent decides to take it, so now 3 life is much more manageable. I have a very solid board. He has 2 big swings coming, but I have a couple 3K events. I want to see what my opponent does here. Things are really, really tight right now. If he attaches all of his Dawn, it will be very scary. You can see me, I'm counting up my cards, and he swings 13 into 7. So I'm looking, it'd be a 13 swing and then a 15 swing. I'm counting my cards. I can get out of this 13 swing by spending every single one of my cards. Both 3K events and 1K gets me out of this. And I'm thinking, okay, if it's a 15K swing next, I need to get a 2K from life. I've gone through 9 of my 10 2Ks. The odds that this is in life is slim to none. So I counter out. I'm saying this needs to happen. I have to get lucky here. It's not looking good. My opponent then decides to swing 12 into 10. Makes sense. Why waste extra Dawn? I have no cards in hand. I lose my Nightmare Luffy again. And he leaves 3 Dawn standing. But worry not. Top deck gods have chosen me. I draw a Dead Man's Game. This is a great card. I spend 4 Dawn and I can rest 2 of his Dawn. But what I'm trying to count right now is if it's worth risking it and just attaching Dawn to my characters and swinging for characters, using that 4 extra Dawn to swing heavier, or if it's better to use it. Because this 3 Dawn was not attached because I had 0 cards in hand, so I don't know if he has 3 events or if it's just he just had no reason to spend them, so he's bluffing. I swing for 6 to see what he does, and he gives me a 1K. That's not surprising. I'm still debating on what to do. I'm counting up all the possibilities. 3 life is a lot, but I can get out of this. I believe I am within mill range. So, actually, I don't know if I'm within mill range. I'll have to wait until I see if I hover over it. I might be stuck with just these 4 swings. I think I might be at 6 cards in my deck or so. I'm still counting out things. I really want to make sure I get this right. I'm going 3, 3, 3 in my head because potentially every single one of those Dawn cards is a 3K counter. And he is a 6K leader. Makes things very difficult for me. So I'm counting things up. I'm being very careful. This is a hard decision to make. I don't think that I can mill, so that makes it even harder. Normally, milling and using leader ability allows for just a safer lethal route. Having that extra swing is just so good. So I'll have to double check and see what happens. I decide to swing for 8 because I want to know if he actually has the counter event. He does use a DMG to get out of this 8, and I go, okay, he has 2 Dawn up. He probably has more counter events. Those weren't just up just because, he didn't need them. So I'm thinking, okay, let's use this DMG, get those 2 Dawn out of here. Now I don't even have to think about events. I must have my deck at a low enough level. I swing for 8, and then I swing for 9, and then I mill I only had 2 cards left. I swing for 9 again. If he has it, he has it, and he doesn't. Let's take a look at this. He is completely bricked up and had 3 more counter events. So using the DMG did end up being the right choice. Some might say it probably would have been best to start with it, but I just wasn't sure what the idea was, how much countering I actually had in hand, if it was worth spending the 4 Dawn to rest potentially useless targets. So, but when I swung for 8, he snap decisioned, played a one cost event, which makes me think he felt very comfortable spending it, and he was ready to spend more. And I got very lucky. My opponent had no counter in hand, and I top decked the GMG. So, it wasn't the cleanest win, but Brook is not a clean character. He's very messy. The deck is all about what you can make out of what you have. There is not an insane amount of draw like Mihawk or hand filter. You have to do what you gotta do. So that's the game. Let's move on to looking back at the deck list and see if there can be any tweaks, what you guys think needs to change, and maybe some predictions of what OP17 has left to share. All right, let's get right to the deck list. As I stated when at the very beginning of this video, I was going back and forth between having 2 Brook or 2 double attack Luffys. There was one game where I wish I had seen double attack Luffy, and I didn't. I ended up playing the Zoro. So I might, in fact, drop the Brook and add another double attack Luffy. Oops, not good. I know these cards are a little expensive right now, so if you can't afford 2, I would run 1. If you can't afford any, there is this new 1-cost event. I believe it's called Twin Jet Pistol. Yes, right here. This is a 1-cost event that gives your Luffy card double attack. I run 2 of them in OP16. I think that this is one of those cards that is definitely worth considering, including in the deck. It has a good trigger with you just rest one of your opponent's leaders. Sometimes that does save games. Sometimes it doesn't. The only problem with this card is it is a brick, and you do not get the second half of the card's effect, where you rest 2 of your opponent's characters with a cost of 3 or less. That's okay. Really, all this does is it provides a very sneaky double attack turn when you apply it to your Nightmare Luffy. Oftentimes, your opponent won't be ready for a 9,000 power or 10,000 power double attack swing. And it is searchable by Perona because Perona searches green events, so it is something worth considering. As it comes to blockers, I think one of the games I used Blocker Nami and she was very helpful, but she didn't come up too much. I think that if you do not really like her in the deck or you don't want to spend $7 a copy, this is a great addition. I actually might even take the Nami out for this Usopp. This Usopp has 2 effects. The first is that on your opponent's turn, it cannot be rested by character cards or leader cards. We are entering a heavy rest meta right now with this 10-cost Shanks, the new Shanks leader, Mihawk being on the rise. And this card is immune to that. The only thing that is not immune to is Dead Man's Game or Malmaragon, which, for those of you who are unfamiliar, is a 0-cost event in Enel that rests a 5,000 power character. So it's not immune to events, which doesn't make it perfect, but it is really good against characters that rest your board. It stays alive, and then on top of that, on KO, you may rest one of your opponent's leaders or characters with a cost of 7 or less. So it is a blocker that can't be rested by characters and takes away 2 attacks for the turn. It's a great card. I actually run 2 of them in my OP16 list, and I might throw them in this deck over 4-cost Nami. I'm not entirely sure. This 4-cost Zoro also didn't come up. There are a couple options. If you would like to try something different, you can. Obviously, there will be this 5-cost Odin. It is a great card. We saw it in multiple games where you, on play, draw 1, and then one of your opponent's characters with original cost of 6 or less cannot be rested. It is a great 5-Dawn turn. If it was a 4-cost character, I'd be much more inclined to run it, but it isn't, so I'm not, unfortunately. On 5-Dawn, I am playing docking 10 times out of 10, so this really only gets played if you don't have docking. And even on a 5-down turn, if you don't have docking, you're going to want to play another searcher or a Gerd or a chopper. The first part of the game, you want your engine to be functioning well. So I think he just takes up too much space, but I don't hate him. Then we also have 4-cost Rayleigh from the starter deck. He and Zora have very similar stats. They're both 4-cost 5,000 power characters with 1k counter. They both have character rush. The only difference is that Zoro rests 1 4-cost or less, and Rayleigh rests 2 2-costs or less. So it's up to personal preference. This is an EBO2 rare, so if you can't find them in your bulk, this will be a great replacement for that as well. A very important card that a lot of people are talking about is this 1-cost Kinemon that's coming out in the starter deck. It is slash searchable, and it has fantastic filter. You may rest one of your slash attribute leaders or a Dawn card, so you either play it for 1 and rest your leader for your 1 Dawn turn, or you rest 2 Dawn cards and to draw 2 trash 1. You get cards in your hand, you throw away a brick. It's great filter. My only problem with it is it's 1,000 power counter. It's a 1k counter. And we don't have a lot of room for 1k counters, right? We want both of these searchers. We need Chopper in hand. And then Gerd and Sanji and Zoro are 2ks. So the only spot for it really is to get rid of this 4-cost Zoro, which is not terrible. There is not a lot of playtime of this card, but in these matchups where your opponent goes wide against Enel, against blue-green Luffy, I think it's nice to have this failsafe. So it's up to you. I think that if you want, you can drop the Zoro and run him. You can go 3 Perona, drop these and then run 3 of him. This is a card definitely worth testing and see how much you like him yourself. But that's kind of my reasoning for not choosing to run him right now. Another interesting tech that I actually saw on Twitter in an OP16 list is Finger Pistol. This was from an OP16 list of someone who went, I believe, 5-0 or 6-0 at a Chinoy's Cup offline regionals, or offline tournament, I should say. This is a tech very specifically for Enel. If they drop Dog, or I should say Holy, for those of you who don't know, Holly is a 3-cost 4,000 power character that has double attack, and then she gives double attack to another character. So it makes Enel not only going very wide, very difficult, but now they have very easy ways to break down your life. And against Enel, you do not want to go down in life too early. He swings too heavy too often. So again, this Finger Pistol is specifically for that matchup, and I think it's worth considering. But we'll have to see how OP17 looks. Will there be a lot of 5-cost characters that need to be removed from the field, and is it worth spending 4 Dawn for that? Other than that, I can't think of too many options. I'm trying to think through my current list, and I think I've covered just about everything. We have the double attack event. We have Usopp blocker and some options that could replace this 4-cost Zoro. And yeah, other than that, I'm really loving the way this list feels. This Gerd increases the consistency so much. It makes the deck feel so much better. The slash package allows you to search for some key components in this deck that otherwise, you might not be able to search or might not be able to find in time. So anyways, thanks for watching. This is my first video. Please leave a like, subscribe, comment, whatever. Just talk about it with your friends. I'm excited to see how Brook does as more cards are released and the meta kind of becomes more defined. If you have any questions, please let me know, and any suggestions of new cards or old cards that might be a fun tech, leave them in the comments below. And that's the video. So have a good day, you guys.